Morning, everyone. I thought this morning that we could go back to the basics and just think about some concepts that, with our daily lives, I forget these things sometimes. I usually, when I need to recenter myself, I go back to some of Robert's earlier work because it's foundational and it's things that so many people have not heard. Maybe some people have heard it maybe once, but his table is squeaky, it's on a tape recorder, but these are his original thoughts, and I find that when you go back to original thoughts that someone had, oftentimes that's the freshest in their mind, and it's when the Holy Spirit had first taught them these things. And think about the Bible and who was Jesus's closest disciple as far as what you just notice about when you read the Gospels. When you read the Gospels, it seems like the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, it seems like Peter is always the closest to him. It seems like he wants to be the closest. It seems like Jesus talks to him like about feeding his sheep, and that's true, and it's all, but in a human standpoint, like if you were just sitting in the car with somebody, you would realize that those conversations, like, wow, those guys are like really good friends, right? And that is meant to be that way because Peter represents the Christian church. And I go through it. I'm sure you go through it. I know Robert goes through it. I know Zen goes through it. And many other people that try to teach this is that the first thing that they say when you mention any book outside the 66 book canon is that is not canon. That is not canon. What is someone saying when they say it's not canon? Because who made the canon? Who decided what books were in and which books were out? Men did. And we only use 10% of the brain that we have. God made the bodies that we have, and He has existed forever. There's no time limit to His existence. And just like when a fisherman sees a storm coming upon the ocean, he gets that check in his gut like, crap, I could die. And he goes back to shore because the ocean is a very strong, unpredictable thing that you don't want to mess with because all sailors know that a giant storm can kill you. And it's not a good way to go. As far as what we are enduring as a world right now, people don't see the storm. So many people are afraid to die. But they're afraid to die for the wrong reasons. You should not be afraid to die. You shouldn't be, because it's something that, number one, you personally probably, most people have never died. If you came back from death, you might have seen the other side, so you have an even better, picture of what it's like over there, and you don't want to go to the bad place. So a lot of people, when they do that, they go to the other side, they change, and they become, better people when they ask Christ for forgiveness and stuff like that, even atheists and people that didn't even believe in it. But if fishermen give that much respect to the ocean, and God made the ocean, and He pets Behemoth and Leviathan like they're in a fishbowl, is that really somebody that you want to mess with? Is that really somebody that you don't want to give credit to? What does it hurt you to give Him credit? Is it because you don't want to stop doing the lustful things that you're doing? Those things that you're doing, it tells you in the Shepherd of Hermas that he said something to the angel like, oh, well, that's like kind of fair, I guess, about how the punishment works, because your sin here, 1 hour of sin here is equal to 1 hour of sin in hell. And he's like, no, you don't get it. No. That 1 hour of punishment in hell, that is like a year or a month or something of punishment, like something way longer compared to the pleasure. That 1 hour of pleasure is like being whipped for a month, like that type of thing. It's not equal. It's, the time might be equal, but the things that you endure in that time, it's not worth it. And people here in this world are so afraid to like allow a thief to come into their home. They have cameras to stop it. They're afraid of somebody coming in and hurting their family, their wife, their children. They're afraid of being attacked viciously by gangs and things like that. People fantasize about this stuff. That's why there's so many TV series about it, because they those shows, like all the cop shows and all the different movies and stuff like that. It's because those movies, people like to feel fear for some reason. They like it. They're used to it. And that's why this whole thing all is working right now, because people are used to feeling fear. They like it. Why else would people watch horror movies unless they like it? It's like that feeling when you go down a roller coaster. It checks you like and then you feel alive, even though it's not a good feeling of being alive, but you feel alive, because a lot of people feel dead because they are dead. In their spirits, they're dead. So going back to the conversation regarding Peter, if you're that close of a friend to somebody, like, and you could choose a disciple, if you could choose a disciple who was the closest, it would be Peter. Even that's why the Catholic Church says that he's like their, bishop, whatever. He's got the key, the gold and silver key, and they put it on the front of their church and blah, blah, blah. He's the original one that passed down the right of succession for the bishops and popes and all that crap. Not true. But, and I'm sorry, in a second it's going to be super bumpy when I take it the next left. But Peter, as close as he was to the Lord Jesus Christ, claimed to be so close to him, but he denied him 3 times. And then, once he ran to the tomb with John, the elect, then the Christian church, who was allowed to enter the tomb first and realize, because even though John knew it was, the elect knew that this had all happened already, which is the difference between Jesus rising from the dead and what we're dealing with right now in the timeline, because what's happening now is that this third denial is happening now. People, and it's amazing that it's happening during a time when so much chaos is going on in the world. It's just amazing that this can even be conversational, like at a time when so much is changing and going on. I personally can't believe it. And so once this third denial is fulfilled and comes to pass, and the Euphrates dries up, which is drying up now, and the Muslims take over the whole region, and in fact all of the Christian nations, because there's a lot of Taliban here right now people don't know about, coming over the border and already here, have been here, living as regular families, nobody knows, and they're trained by the CIA. And there's also there's so many Muslims in the UK that are part of the Taliban. Like, people, like, even shows are made about like the streets of the UK and how it's so many Taliban are intermingled there, and we just gave them all of that weaponry. And you don't think they're going to use it? I mean, eventually they're going to figure out how to use a lot of that advanced stuff. So, prophecy is coming to pass right now. And at the same time, Peter is denying the church, the Christian church, is denying the fact that these books that were reserved for the wise only, as mentioned in 2nd Ezra, this is happening for the third and final time. And so prophecy is done. It's like done. It's coming to pass. Like, I'm not saying it's fully done. I'm just saying it's like this is the last steps. You can see it happening. There's nothing after that. There's nothing after these Muslim takeovers and stuff like that. And it's interesting that I did that video about iPetGoat 3 and how the Muslim Antichrist will have a Chinese army. There's so many things that have happened since I made that video that it came is coming true as we speak. The CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, is taking over the world. They're the ones that are making the president do all the things that he is doing, including coming out of Afghanistan. They're telling him what to do. On the board of some of these pharmaceutical companies are like 72, 80 members of the Communist Chinese Party. What happened to the million people that were protesting in the streets right before this all happened? Where are they? Where's those million people? They're all in internment camps. All those people, they're rotting away in internment camps. And I'm praying that out of those people that there are guards coming to Christ, that I'm praying that there are secret things that we will never know. That certain people have seen what's going on, they don't think it's right, and they're coming to Christ in the privacy of their own hearts. I hope so. But if Peter represents the church, which he does, and John was at the tomb first, and John the elect let Peter see that Jesus had risen from the dead, so that people nowadays will see the books and realize, oh my gosh, they were right. And there's something in the I forget which book it says that, like, okay, now you know it, okay, well now, okay, fine, go ahead and read it. It's kind of like that. It's like, oh, you want to read it now when you should have read it before? It wouldn't behest you to read it when it was, free to and open for you to read it. Now it's kind of harder because imagine the amount of pushback from the upper people that are going to lose all their power, because that's what it says. It says that when we leave Egypt, like the second time, like I think it was I opened up to it, I think, in Isaiah the other day. When we leave Egypt for the second time, when the Israelites leave Egypt for the second time, and many people are finding out that there's historical documents that say like this is actually Egypt, but regardless of all that stuff, can't you see how this is just like Egypt? Can't you see how they have all the same like ziggurats, like the monuments? They have like border walls they're trying to put. It's just like Egypt. Even God showed me that in the Chronicles of Jeremiah or something when I dreamed it, like not that long ago, like a year ago. And the way Robert talks about it is that when it talks about Sodom and Egypt, that Sodom is sexual immorality in the spirit realm, which is what the Catholic Church is, and the once saved, always saved. Because remember we talked about how fasting is not eating. Like, you do that too. You only eat bread and water that day to make your body less powered. But you don't just starve yourself. That's not what it's talking about. It's stopping from sinning. Why do you think Enoch went alone by himself all the time? Why do you think Moses went alone by himself all the time? Because when you're around other people, you have a greater chance of sinning. And how many times do we leave the television on for hours at a time, and on the television, in the commercials, in your ears, you can hear like homosexual commercials, you can hear like different things that you wouldn't normally hear if you were alone by yourself. But those things are entering into your body, into your spirit, and you are not like that might have broken your fast, because you are supposed to be meditating on God and giving your spirit to God. And I'm not saying I'm perfect at this, I'm just telling you what it is. You know what I'm saying? I'm not perfect at it. I'll be the first one to tell you that I am not perfect at all. But I do try to read scripture every day. I do pray every day with my family. And I do try to treat my neighbor as myself, whether I like that person or not. And I do not like some people at all. I'm not easy to get along with. If I don't like you, I can't explain it. If I don't like you, I just don't like you. And there's a good chance I probably won't ever like you. And I'm just telling you, I'm just being honest. I'm not a nice person. God transformed me into what I am now. But I'm still myself. Like, I still think, like, if 10 years ago I thought the same, like something, chances are today I still am going to think that same thing. It's just that I ask the Lord to help me not to be that way. And it takes a lot of prayer, and it takes a lot of, like, changing and, like, you know, modifying the way that I am. And that's the work that I'm trying to do. That's the work that we all should be trying to do, and I'm sure we all do. Trying to change, trying to be better. You know, there are huge mountains that you have to overcome. Like, for me, it was smoking. And then there's little things that you have to overcome, like stop, like, swearing at people when they cut you off. You know, like things like that. But back to what we're talking about. If people say all the time, that's not canon, that's not... Somebody just said it to me on TikTok because I referenced the Epistle of Barnabas. In the Epistle of Barnabas, it says that fasting is not the This is Jesus talking, quoted by Barnabas, who studied with Paul and was a Levite priest. Like, he was from the Levitical priesthood. Barnabas. And I think Barnabas was almost chosen. Like, it was like Matthias, Barnabas, and somebody else. And I think Matthias was chosen as the replacement for Judas. But I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So, this dude studied with Paul. How are you going to have like 14 or 13 or 14 books, however many books Paul wrote, that are all written in code? Because he's a prisoner in his humanness, but he's a prisoner in the spirit. So he's a prisoner for these 2,000 years because nobody understands him. Someday they will. Some of us do understand him now, but not the masses. Nobody's up in a church preaching this right now, right? Which is probably good, because the church is not a building, it's us. So if in your holy temple of your body you understand this stuff, then that's more powerful than an entire congregation going, yay, Jesus. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Even Robert says that, like, you're praising his name, but you don't even know who you are, what you're doing. Because if you don't know Jesus, like the man, and you don't know his higher level meaning, so how could you not know Jesus and not know his higher level meaning? You don't know what he did as a child. You don't know that when he was 2 years old, that he just, like, even from the womb, he just came out like a light spirit body baby. Like, it's not like the manger scene. He just came out and he was just like a light being, and then he went and sucked his mother's breast like a normal baby would. I just read it last night. If you don't know that, that's like the most basic thing. And it's important to know that, because what I just read, and I'm going to share it with you now because I haven't had time to do a live show, is that in the 18th chapter of the book that we're reading, the Rod of Wonder and the Garments of Power or whatever, that book that we were reading, I kept going in the book, 17 and 18. I read them so that I could do a show about them. And 17 is good, but 18 was like, whoa. Because it tells you that remember how and this is going back to Peter in a second, but like, remember how when, and I always reference the Passion of the Christ in my mind when I talk about this kind of stuff, but you remember when, like, it's nighttime and Jesus is tried and all the council members that are there are like, why did you call this so late at night? Why are we here so late at night? Number one, that represents the darkness of this current age, these 2,000 years that were given over to the pigs that fell off the cliff, that were filled with demons called Legion. That's the Christian age, the false Christian age. That's the pigs. That's mentioned in Ahikar, the book that they won't accept also, which is a historical document. But when they're trying Jesus at night, half the members aren't there. You don't hear anything from Nicodemus, you don't hear anything from Joseph of Arimathea, and all these other men that weren't there. And they're like, where's everybody else? You only called half the council. Why would they only choose half the council? You guys heard about, like, what happened with the election? Right? So why would you do that? Because you don't want the other people to vote. You don't want the other half of the people to vote, because they wouldn't have crucified him. But prophetically, it had to happen that way because Jesus had to be crucified. Jesus had to die. He had to. Not only did he have to die, but he lived a perfect life, and he fulfilled, in every day of his life, fulfilled every prophecy that was ever told about him by every single prophet. And all those prophets were killed in brutal, horrible ways. And then we don't want to die that way. We don't want to have our skin ripped off and flayed. We don't want to get stabbed with 4 spears like Thomas. We don't want to get stoned to death after we fall from the temple like James. We don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, they did horrible things to these people. And Jesus said to Paul, why are you kicking against the pricks? Because he killed Stephen, who was turning into an angel. His face was turning angelic. And if you don't believe that can happen, go watch some of Keith Green's concerts. His eyes are like bright white. Like, you see this? Lumify. This eye drop right here is the brightest white you can make your eyes. And I have a serious problem with having red eyes in the morning. So if that can make my eyes super white and Keith Green's eyes are like glowing, it's something spiritual. It's not like a physical thing that his eyes are just that white. When Keith Green is on stage and he's crying out to God, asking these people, like saying, how can you be so numb? How can you be so asleep in the light of God? To the church. He's talking to the church. He's saying, how can you be so asleep in the light of God? Why do you think they killed him? Why do you think they put a bomb on his plane? Because he was speaking the truth. They killed him, and they've killed all the prophets. They always do. And there's rappers out there talking about, yeah, I'm buying my second house, and I'm, and stuff like that. And they're for themselves. Maybe they're investment properties, whatever. Like I said, Keith Green he rented out the whole neighborhood, and he gave every house that he rented to orphans and widows and single mothers that had nothing and stuff like that. He argued with his label all the time because they wanted to make all this money off his music, and he just wanted to do free concerts for people. And that attitude is what I'm talking about. That attitude is what it says in the Shepherd of Hermas that we should be like. And that's what Jesus said to be like. That's what all the people were supposed to do, to live in a common way, sharing everything that you have. How hard is that to share everything you have? Very hard for people in America. Very hard for the selfish people of this world. They don't want to share anything. And it's evil. It's all from the devil. And like I said, that girl that went to heaven, she said she went in, they have stores in heaven, and they were all playing at the beach, and you just walk in and get what you want and go play with it. Jesus is going to share his kingdom with you. He's going to share his power with you. You think he's going to do all that? You think he died on the cross and he doesn't expect something from you? He does expect something from you. He expects your loyalty. He expects your blood, sweat, and tears. And he said, render unto Caesar what Caesar's. Who cares what they want from you? Who cares what they tax you? Who cares? He's going to make it so you can survive on whatever's left over. And he will make you to live in abundance according to what you need. We have so much abundance, we don't even realize how much abundance we have compared to the rest of the world. They don't have running water. They're dying from mosquito bites. Right? So anyways, they tried Jesus in the middle of the night, which represents this dark age that we live in. And during that time that they tried him at night, all the people that were evil and wanted him dead were there. But what I read in chapter 18 is that Jesus comes from the line of David. So he was supposed to be the king, and he was also supposed to be the priest that would take the place of John the Baptist's father that died. The high priest, the order of Melchizedek. And what they said to Mary is, we desperately want to make your son the high priest, but we need to know if you committed adultery or not. And she's like, I've told you so many times and nobody believes me. And even if she got tested by water like a witch would, like they did so many things to test her, and even Joseph was like okay with it and stuff like that, because he was an old man. He was like, Joseph was really old. That's why he was dead when Jesus was on the cross, because he was old. He only took care of Mary for a very short amount of time before he died. Now, they said to Mary, and she's like, I'll tell you, but you won't believe me anyway. I'll tell you whatever you want to know. And she said it, that an angel came and told her that Jesus was going to be born to her, that she wouldn't sleep with a man, and they brought in people to check and make sure that she was still a virgin, and she was. And they couldn't believe it, and they were so afraid. These priests were so afraid, they didn't, after that, those lines of questioning, when she said the angel stuff, they didn't question her anymore, and they just said, okay, we're going to do it. And they put Jesus in the book for the high priest of that year. And then he was crucified. They crucified the high priest, our high priest. And nobody will tell you this. Nobody in the churches will tell you this. But I'm telling you, and Zen told you. And all I'm doing is reading what Zen has found. Zen's son found this when he was doing his study, which I knew he was going to do this study. He was doing a study about, I think it was a study about the difference between how many times they remove the name of Yahuwah from the King James canon compared to the Targums, like the word of the Lord, like his name was written in the book so many times, and they removed it on purpose. And he was doing a study about that or something to that effect, because I remember when he's talking about it. And that when he was doing that study, he found this text that said that Jesus was made the high priest. They wrote it in the book. And you're like, oh, that makes sense, but you really are like, why? That's a little hard to believe based on your current concept of the canon, because a lot of people don't know that when Jesus was 5, he was schooling the top teachers of the Torah at 5. He was schooling doctors and lawyers and all of these people about things he didn't even learn yet, because he knew them, because he's God. And the only people that know how Jesus was able to go into Mary's stomach is God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. It says it right in the book. And I know people know that already, but it says it in the book. That is the only 3 entities that know how that happened. It's a mystery. And you think about it, Ron Wyatt tested the blood. Doesn't have a human father. It only has the mother and like a 1 chromosome to allow it to be a male or something that came from God. That's it. There's the only way to explain it. But do you see how, when you drive down the street, do you see how big these buildings, these churches are? And you wonder, could they have just bought a field? Could they have just bought a field and made a tent and let us congregate there and given all the rest of the money for the bricks and the mortar and all the stuff to the poor? The Lord didn't preach in a temple like that. He didn't preach like that. He preached in their temple because he was a Jew. But he didn't go create his own building and start his own ministry in a building. He preached out in in nature. And that was because the Essenes were building him a church out in the desert. That's why John the Baptist was saying, I'm trying to make plain a highway in the desert, or whatever he was saying. That's what he was talking about. He was talking about that church that the Essenes were building. And the Romans came and destroyed it. I think it was like one of the Herods came with his men and destroyed it. And that's what was happening all throughout that time. Christians would do something, try to make a move, devil destroys it. Christians make a move, devil destroys it. But what are we talking about right now? My word will not pass away. As many as they kill, as many as they hurt, as many as they imprison, we multiply always. And I pray that we do, because this world is sick, twisted, so messed up. And what is happening right now is that the evil is leaking into the lives of the people that were doing evil, accepting evil. Everybody was okay with abortion. Everybody was okay with homosexuality. Everybody was okay with it, as long as it didn't affect Susie's scholarship to get into Yale. Now what? Now you got people that look like Michael Obama winning every single race because they're not in the right gender class. And like I said before, you can't even plug in an electronic device without a male and female connector. So obviously, according to mathematics and the truth, you're wrong, right? Even doctors will tell you you're wrong. There's only two genders. It's just the way it is. And people, when they lose it about that, it's because there's no truth in them. They have given themselves to the oblivion that is the devil. Satan is oblivion. If you read the Nag Hammadi Codices, that's what he is. He separated himself. And when you separate yourself from the almighty truth of God, that's what happens. You give in to oblivion, which is darkness, which doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. Why do you think none of this stuff makes sense? And why do you think it's so hard to find the truth these days? It's because that's what it is. The devil has taken over this world in the minds of men. He actually has no power. But when you give him power, then he resides in you. You give him a home. You give him your soul. You give him your body. You give him your mind. Why would you do that? He hates you. He literally hates you. Look what he did to even God's own disciples. How many times you try to read the Bible at night and you fall asleep? Who do you think makes that happen? The devil. Who do you think made the disciples fall asleep when Jesus wanted them to watch it while he was praying? How do you think that happened? And that's metaphor too, but it's the devil. Realistically, if we weren't in sinful bodies, we probably wouldn't even sleep that much, right? But it's our weakness. But somehow, some way, in the near future, after many, many things have happened, this is all going to come to light. And I believe it's going to happen very soon. And maybe I'll do it tomorrow because I didn't realize this was going to go as long as it did. But I have, since my earliest videos that are on my channel, I have not done a full explanation of the dreams that I've had, and I think that it's important because some of them are seemingly happening. I don't really want to tell you that because I'm not trying to be like the person that's like, see, they're coming true. Like, it's not how I am. If I dreamed it and it happens, I'll tell you. That's it. I'm not trying to, like, you know, I'm not trying to be like a soothsayer or fortune teller or anything like that. I don't believe in that stuff. But when God gives you dreams, I think that you should share them with other people, because the reason that I know that my dream about Obama being the Antichrist is accurate is because so many other people dream the same thing, that he's the Antichrist. And when you see who the current president is and that he couldn't order an ice cream cone properly, that there's somebody running the puppet show. And who do you think that is? I think it's the person that has a romance comic book with Joe Biden. And you can go look that up, it's true. So if you don't like a person that walks up to little kids and sniffs their ears, you know, then think about who his boss is and what he's really like, because he just got caught ordering human fetal heads, little babies' aborted heads, for $515 a piece. Fresh ones, not frozen, fresh heads. He was ordering them. Documented. And it says in one of the books that I read that there's two witnesses, Enoch and Elijah, but then there's two women that are with them as well that preach, and one of them is killed, and it says that the Antichrist will suck her blood, and what does that? What sucks blood? A vampire or a snake? Maybe both. And then it says something like he'll cast her upon the roof of a building or something, and her, like, she becomes like the healing for the people around there, because that happens a lot in history. If you read about it, prophets, when they die, like there'll be like a river that will stop hurting, like flooding the towns and stuff like that. It's like proven fact. Just like Elijah, like stopped the rain, things like that. we as humans, because we are made of dirt, the finest dirt that is on this planet, fine dust it's called, because we're made of that, our bodies have a very deep connection to what goes on in this world. In fact, the earth, the sun, the moon have all laid accusations against us before. They're run by angels, and these angels, they can see what you're doing. You might see the sun, but there's angels behind that sun, many of them. And when they see you doing things on this earth, it ticks them off because they're righteous and we're not. And they say stuff about us, and they're like, look at what they're doing, look what they're doing. And that's what the fallen angels originally did. They laid accusation against us, and Jesus said, if you go down there, you're going to sin even more than they do, because you're made out of these elements and they're made out of those. And they're like, no, we won't. He's like, fine, go. And they turned into human bodies, and they had sex with human women and created the giants. And then who does the Israelites fight? The giants. And then when all the giants are dead, because Enoch told them, you're not going to live past a certain age, to the giants, he told the fallen angels, the parents of the giants, that your kids are not only going to live to 500 years and then they're dead. And then they died. And then what happened? Then all of a sudden there's demons on the earth. Where did they come from? They're wandering spirits that came from the giants, because they don't have a place to go, because they have no promise of heaven. They have no promise because they were never meant to be. They're the offspring of, like, garbage. You see what I'm saying? We really don't know how evil they were. If giants were 3,000 ells tall, that's to the clouds. It's 1.5 miles high. If they were to the clouds, then if they wanted to, they could just like literally like pick you up, like, and eat you. Like, it's that simple. And it says that they did that. It says that the humans stopped feeding them because they were sick of it, because they were eating like entire fields in one mouthful. Wouldn't you be pissed if you worked on a farm all year and a giant just comes by and like just like one mouthful eats your whole garden? Wouldn't you stop feeding it? Well, they did, and then they got eaten themselves. And then the blood, which bears testimony, the water, the blood, and like I think the flesh or something. No, the water, the blood, and the spirit, I think, of human beings, because it matches God, like God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. The blood of these people, just like the blood of Abel, is always laying accusation against Cain and his race until they're wiped out. That blood was also laying accusation against them. And then the good angels were like Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, and Uriel were like, God, what? We got to do something about this. And you don't think God knew about it already? But for some reason, God allows his servants to do things and tell him things, and then he sometimes waits until that happens, till he makes a move. And only he knows why that happens, because he's super smart. He doesn't have to like explain himself. And that's pretty sick, that most human beings, they want God to explain himself all the time. Why did this person die? Oh, this person died, I hate you. Or he was alive because God made him. Who are you to say why he died? Like in the infancy gospel, like God will like kick somebody and they like wake up from death, or like he did certain things that people don't understand. He's God. He doesn't have to say anything to you. You're lucky that you're breathing right now. I am. And I just think that human beings have a very weird, messed up understanding of who God really is. And that the reason for that is because men have altered the word of God. They changed it. They changed history, and they changed the word itself. That doesn't mean that it's not, written a certain way so that you can still get the concept of it, but a lot of things have been changed in it. That doesn't mean that God was unmerciful because he killed the men, women, and children in the Old Testament. They were all part of the fallen angels, and they had messed up DNA, and that would have messed up everything right now. And your kids wouldn't be the way they are right now. This world would be totally way more screwed up than it is at this current moment. And it's pretty sick right now. Only in a sick world would people have zombie heads and Halloween decorations where people's grotesque arms are coming out of the ground, sticking, evil, disgusting, blood-soaked, demonic-looking costumes on their children and thinking it's cute. What world is that cute? Like, what in a demonic world run by the devil, that's where. And people don't even think about it. And churches do harvest parties where they dress up too. What's the difference? That's marrying yourself to the world. What does light have to do with darkness? Nothing. When it's nighttime, do you ever see the sun come out and be like, just kidding, haha, oh wait, I'm back. Like, he doesn't jump in and out. It's nighttime, it's daytime. It's one or the other. Pick one. Because he's going to spew you out. Right? That's what he said he's going to do. So anyways, it wasn't so much wanting this to be like a rant again, but when me and Jackie are in the car, what I'm saying right now is all I talk about. So, like, sometimes when I'm not with her, it just comes out. I just have to say it. So I hope that you enjoy what I say, because maybe I would just record these for myself just to say it and get it all out on like paper type of thing. You know what I mean? But you know, the other thing too is, like, I don't live near any of you guys, and you're all my friends. I don't talk to you on the phone every day, but I think about everybody that is part of this channel all the time. And since we never get to ride together for real, you know, we can ride together like this. And hopefully it helps you in your day, because I need help in my day all the time, you know. So God bless you guys. Thank you for all the kind comments on the last video. I appreciate it. I miss you all. And I will be doing a live show soon. It's just that my schedule for work, I'm getting up super early lately, and I'm going to bed early, so it's difficult to do a 9 o'clock show, but I will soon. God bless you all, and take care.